They came in the night, during the spring of 1908, slipping quietly through the trees that skirted Putney Downs. The villagers had no inkling of their presence, not until after the camp had been firmly established, deep in the woods, where few people would dare to challenge them. The first sign of them came in the early morning, with the smoke curling above the leafy branches of the oak trees to mar the clear blue sky. But very soon, the evidence of their existence became more annoying. The sounds of their passionate music and wild laughter floated on the night winds, disturbing the villagers in their sleep. Those adventurous enough to peek caught glimpses of gaily painted caravans illuminated by the leaping flames of their fires. Farmers lost pigs and sheep, housewives lost washing from the line, and fearful mothers warned their children not to play in the woods. The gypsies had arrived in Badger's End. Even the most sceptical would not risk the wrath of the gypsies. Crossing their path could result in a curse, or much worse. Far better to leave them alone, in the hopes that soon they would tire of their new habitat and depart before something terrible happened. Colonel Fortescue had no such thoughts in his mind that late April evening. He had just enjoyed a snifter or two of very good brandy in the George and Dragon, a nightcap to maintain the mellow glow he'd acquired from the gin he'd consumed with dinner at the Pennyfoot Hotel. Things had been a trifle disorganised at the George. Dick Scroggins had been forced to put the place up for sale, and soon there would be a new owner. Until then, the place floundered like a Punjabi in quicksand. The Colonel had had to wait twice as long to get his brandy, and he was later than usual, leaving the noisy warmth of the pub. The darkness that greeted him as he stepped outside took him by surprise. He didn't like to walk alone in the dark. Apart from the fact that the night spooked the blazes out of him, his eyesight wasn't what it used to be. All that dashed blinking made his eyes water, and in the dark it was like walking in a thick, impenetrable mist. There didn't seem to be much he could do about it, however. He would just have to put his best foot forward and pretend he was back in India, leading the regiment on dress parade. Standing at attention, he fastened the buttons of his Norfolk jacket, then, taking a firm hold of his walking stick, he struck out for the esplanade. Once there, the gaslights would illuminate his way back to the Pennyfoot Hotel. After a while, he began to feel extremely tired. It was difficult to march properly when his foot wavered every time he lifted it off the ground. The familiar gin-induced sensation of mounting steps that weren't there, easy enough to deal with in daylight, became rather frightening in the dark, as if he were stepping off an unseen cliff, only to have the ground come up and hit his foot when he least expected it. And he could have sworn the esplanade was closer than this. He seemed to have been tramping for blasted miles. Blinking rapidly, a legacy left from the shell shock he'd sustained in the tropics, the Colonel did his best to penetrate the darkness ahead of him. Just then, to his profound relief, the moon slid out from behind a cloud, casting a pale glow across the grass. The Colonel blinked again. Grass?